Okay, so we are going to discuss for part B, chapter 3 on homeostasis. So we are going to look at question number 1 first. Okay, so for question number 1, it says here, figure 3. Okay, figure 3 shows part of a nephron. Okay, so can the first person, Zur Atika, can you please answer for question number 1?
Untuk G tu Bowman's capsule.
Okay.
Untuk K tu proximal tubule.
Okay. Bowman's. Make sure when you spell the word Bowman, you start with capital B. Okay, Bowman's, and then S ada apostrophe. Okay, so make sure you spell the term correctly. So if you spell the term incorrectly, such as for example you put a small b for Bowman's and there's no apostrophe before S, okay, so your answer might be boleh disalahkan. Okay. So make sure you spell the term correctly. Okay. So Bowman's capsule. Okay, capsule. C can small letter. So K is proximal tubule. Okay, K is proximal tubule. And then M is distal tubule. So kita labelkan semua sekali. Okay. N is collecting ducts. Okay. And then L is loop of Henle. Okay. Okay, loop of Henle. So the structure of the nephron you have to know. Another structure that you have to know is the structure in here, which is the glomerulus. Okay, so all the component of the nephron you have to take note. And then another thing that you have to take note is the location where the nephron is located. Okay, so the region of the kidney, it is divided into 3 regions. Okay. So the region the outer part, okay, it is the cortex, okay. And then moving into the kidney, you have the outer medulla, and then moving into is the inner medulla. Okay, medulla. So those region you have to know. So the cortex will have the glomerulus, the proximal tubule, and the distal tubule. And then in the medulla region, it has the loop of Henle and also the collecting ducts. Okay, so those are the region that you have to know. And then another thing that you have to know on the structure of the nephron is that the blood capillaries, okay, surrounding the nephrons. Okay, so the blood capillaries surrounding the proximal tubule and also the distal tubule, we call it as the peritubular capillaries. Okay, and then surrounding the loop of Henle, you have the vasa recta. Okay, so you have to know the structure involved in nephrons. Okay, so question number 2, I'm going to do question number 2. Okay, yang lain tu nanti kita akan go through the list. It says here for question number 2, describe how L maximizes the reabsorption of water by using counter-current multiplier system. Okay, so counter-current multiplier system, it is a process where it involves the movement of fluid that flows in opposite direction. That's why we call it as counter-current, fluid that flows in opposite direction, and it involves the exchange of substance, okay, or something. So counter-current, what are the fluid that flows in the opposite direction? It is the fluid of the filtrate in the in the descending and ascending limb of loop of Henle, and then also the blood in the vasa recta. Okay, so blood and the filtrate will flow in the opposite direction, and it involves the exchange of water and also sodium chloride. Okay, so that is the first term, counter-current. So you know, you should be able to explain why is it counter-current. And then multiplier, why is it multiplier? Because the movement of sodium chloride out of the thick segment of ascending limb of loop of Henle, it uses energy. Energy is expand. It uses ATP. Okay, so that's why we call it as multiplier, to cause more sodium chloride to move out of the filtrate to be reabsorbed, and the sodium chloride will move into the interstitial fluid and into the blood vessels adjacent to the ascending ascending limb of loop of Henle. So if I were to draw this, okay, in order for you to be able to understand how it occurs, okay, on the counter current multiplier system, okay. So okay, saya guna warna maroon lah, okay. So maroon, boleh yang kat sini ya. Okay, so here you have the descending limb of loop of Henle. Okay, ini we have the other side, you have the ascending limb of loop of Henle. Okay. So adjacent to the loop of Henle, you have the blood vessels. Okay, so blood vessels adjacent to this. Sepatutnya saya guna warna biru lah kot. Okay. And then red. Okay, on this side here you have the descending vasa recta. Okay, the blue side here you have the ascending vasa recta. Okay, so when the filtrate flows down the descending limb of loop of Henle, okay, filtrate. So what substance moves out? The substance moves out is water. Okay. Water is reabsorbed. H2O, 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 H2O. And then the water will move into from interstitial fluid into the blood. Okay, into the blood. Okay, so on the other side, okay, sepatutnya saya draw dia. Okay, the limb of loop of Henle, it has the thin segment. Thin segment, upper is the thick segment. Okay, so thin and thick. Alright, so when the filtrate move down the descending limb of loop of Henle, water is reabsorbed, and as filtrate reaches the elbow of loop of Henle, the concentration of filtrate will be very concentrated, which is 1200. Okay, very concentrated. So because the filtrate in the elbow of loop of Henle is really concentrated, so therefore sodium chloride will diffuse out. Okay, diffuse out in the thin segment. Sodium chloride diffuses out in the thin segment. Okay, so kalau yang thick segment, the sodium chloride will move out through active transport. So that's why we call it as multiplier, kan? Sodium chloride moves out through active transport. Okay, so they move into interstitial fluid and into the blood in the descending vasa recta. Okay, in the descending vasa recta. So blood will flow in the opposite direction as filtrate. Okay, so blood flows in the opposite direction as the filtrate. Okay, so this one, for this question, because it is 3 marks, okay, 3 marks, so the in your answer you should explain, okay, for the first point here, okay, as the filtrate flows from cortex, okay, from cortex to the medulla, tadi saya dah label kan, region dia, saya label balik semula lah. Ni atas ni cortex. Okay. And then you have the outer medulla, you have the inner medulla. Okay, inner medulla region. Okay, so I repeat, as the filtrate flows from cortex into the medulla in the descending limb of loop of Henle, water leaves. Okay, water leaves. Awak tengok kan? Saya guna laser pointer lah. Okay. Water leaves by osmosis or through aquaporins that are present in the descending limb of plough of Henle here. Okay, in order for reabsorption of water to occur, it uses aquaporin. So that is the first point. Okay, for the second point, you mentioned where to. Okay, so the water will enter into the interstitial fluid and into the blood in the ascending vasa recta, in the capillaries here lah. Okay, so that is for the second point. For the third point, okay, yang tadi itulah, filtrate becomes more and more concentrated or therefore increase in osmolarity. Okay, so the filtrate at the elbow of limb of lobe of Henle here, the filtrate will become very concentrated. Okay, so the next point, as the filtrate flows in the ascending, okay, in the ascending limb of lobe of Henle, sodium chloride here, okay, sodium chloride leaves the filtrate, okay, leaves the filtrate through passive transport. Okay, so there will be no reabsorption of water, right? So next, as the filtrate moves up in the thick segment, so this time to move sodium chloride into the interstitial fluid and into the blood in the descending vasa recta here, it uses energy from ATP. So that is for the next point you can include in your answer. Okay, so the next point, the last point here is that what is the purpose of this process? It is to maintain, okay, maintain a high salt ataupun NaCl, kan, a high salt concentration in the inner medulla region, okay, in the inner medulla region, or this will enable the kidney to form concentrated urine. Okay, so that is how you explain counter current multiplier system. So do you understand? Can you follow what on this explanation?
Yes.
Okay, so kalau notice kat sini, sodium chloride bila masuk dalam descending vasa recta here, okay, so it enters into the blood, and at the same time water will leave the blood. H2O. Okay, H2O. So pergerakan dia macam tu. Sebab sodium chloride dah masuk dalam darah, so air akan keluar daripada darah into interstitial fluid in the descending vasa recta. Tapi bila dekat ascending vasa recta, bila air masuk, okay, bila air masuk dalam darah tu, so yang akan keluar is salt. So dia melibatkan the exchange of materials, which is water and also sodium chloride. On this side here, kenapa saya draw descending vasa recta as in red color? Because it brings oxygenated blood and also nutrients. So it means that when blood flows, okay, when blood flows through the descending vasa recta, nutrients will also move out of the blood into the fluid, into the interstitial fluid, okay, of the kidney. So to supply nutrient to the cell of the kidney as well. Okay, so that is the purpose of counter current multiplier system, okay, in the kidney. So ada banyak point tadi yang saya dah bagi. So you pick any 3 point for 3 marks. Okay. Okay, so if you don't have any question, we can proceed. If you have question regarding this, you can ask. Okay, if not, we can proceed. On question number 3, Wan Muhammad Adli, nama dia tak full keluar.
For number 3,
Okay.
making the collecting duct more permeable to water.
Can you read the question, please?
Describe how a hormone released from posterior
Posterior pituitary gland.
pituitary gland regulates an increase in blood osmolarity above its set point, making the collecting duct more permeable to water, increasing water reabsorption, and bring back blood osmolarity to normal.
Okay. Your point is basically the point that you mentioned ada 2 point lah. Nampak macam dengan 2 point. Okay, tapi sebenarnya it is the same point. Okay, the same point, so you only get 1 mark. Okay, so point awak tadi apa? Making the apa tadi?
Collecting duct.
Collecting duct.
More permeable to
Okay.
water.
Kenapa dia more permeable? Sebab due to more aquaporin. So it is of basically the same point. Okay, so when more aquaporin is added to the collecting duct, it causes reabsorption of water to increase. Okay, same 1 point. So to get this the full 2 marks, you should mention what is the hormone produced, okay, by the posterior pituitary to cause the increase in resorption of water, which is the secretion of ADH hormone. Okay, ADH hormone secreted from the posterior pituitary gland causes the increase in the reabsorption of water. Okay, of water, or increase the permeability of the collecting duct, and also actually the distal tubule towards water reabsorption due to the addition of more aquaporins. Okay, faham Boleh Adli?
Boleh, madam.
Okay, so thank you. So for question number 2, it says here, animals are either classified as endotherms or ectotherms depending on how they control the inner body temperature. Okay, so for question number 1 and 2, so saya bagi dia jawab 2 soalan lah sebab soalan satu tu mudah je. Raihana.
For A1, iguana. Give one example of iguana. The second part is explain how sweating reduces body temperature. Sweat glands in skin will secrete the sweat, which will evaporate to cool down the body. This will reduce body temperature into normal.
Okay, dapat 2 markah. Okay, so
Okay.
alright. So the 2 marks tadi, okay, sweat is secreted from the sweat gland. Kan? So the first mark. Second point, what is the function of secreting the sweat? So that when the sweat evaporates from the skin surface, it takes away the body heat. Okay, the body heat and cools down the body. Alright? So that is the point. So point yang pertama tadi, sweat gland. Your explanation on the sweat gland. Okay, sweat gland producing this the sweat. Okay, when the body is too hot. For the second point, when the sweat evaporates. Okay, evaporate from the skin, it takes away the heat from the body. Okay, so 2 point. Okay, so for B, the next question. Okay, tadi kan saya lupa. Okay, iguana ni any animals that are ectotherm lah. You can give example iguana, lizard, snakes, amphibian, frogs. All that example will be accepted. Okay. So the next question B, Shahira. B and C lah.
Untuk question B, name one substance present in the filtrate water.
Water. Okay. Water ataupun the filtrate in the Bourbon capsule, it also contains glucose, amino acid, ions, nutrients, waste. Tu pun awak boleh include in your answer lah sebab dia tak mention specifically filtrate dekat mana kan. So it can be filtrate in the Bourbon capsule. So if you answer glucose, it is also accepted. Okay. NaCl, glucose, amino acid, okay, nutrients, vitamins. So those will be accepted. Okay. Tapi kalau dia cakap filtrate at specific place, macam contohnya in the loop of Henle, awak tak boleh dah jawab glucose, amino acid dah. Kan sebab apa? Dekat proximal tubule akan berlaku reabsorption of all those substance. Kan? So reabsorption of glucose, amino acid will be it will occur in the proximal tubule. Proximal tubule sebelum loop of Henle. Okay. So C.
For C, explain how selective reabsorption occurs in the convoluted tubule. When the filtrate leave Roman capsule and enter the proximal convoluted tubule, the molecules in filtrate are transported actively and passively into the peritubular capillaries. Salt in filtrate will enter the epithelium cells and transport via facilitated diffusion and transport mechanism. Other molecules include in selective reabsorption such as glucose, amino acid, potassium ion will also actively reabsorb, actively or passively transported from filtrate into the interstitial fluid and into the peritubular capillaries.
Lagi tak? That's it. Okay, so untuk dia 5 markah. So for your answer, I can only give you 2 marks. Okay, 2 marks. So not 2 marks, but 3 marks. Okay, 3 marks for your explanation that you says substance such as glucose, amino acid from the filtrate will be reabsorbed from the filtrate into the interstitial fluid and into the blood. Okay, point yang pertama. Point yang kedua yang saya dengar tadi adalah through mechanism such as process such as active and passive transport pun boleh juga kan, dapat lagi 1 markah menggunakan energy or protein channel or transport protein or co-transport tadi. Okay, 3 markah. Markah yang lain adalah markah yang keempat, sebab dia 5 markah. Markah keempat adalah you explain on how water is reabsorbed. Okay, so large amount of water will be reabsorbed into the blood by osmosis. Okay, osmosis. Point yang kelima, yang ini saya tahu tak ada dalam nota, tapi this is additional point for you to note down, is that the feature of the proximal tubule. Okay, proximal tubule, it is the longest part of the nephrons, and because reabsorption occurs in high amount at proximal tubule, the wall of proximal tubule here inside, okay, it has cells that has microvilli. Okay, cell that has microvilli to increase the surface area for reabsorption. Okay, so that is the point that you could include in your answer. The feature of the cell lining the proximal tubule is that it has many microvilli to increase surface area for reabsorption. Okay, so you can include in your answer for question C. If you notice, for this question, it is worth 5 marks. Okay, for your usually for your for the question in your exam or in your test, selalunya tak sampai 5 markah ya. Ini sebagai latihan je untuk awak punya nota tambahan untuk belajar kan. Kalau for you to add more info, sebab soalan ni dia boleh tanya dalam objektif and all that kan. So selalunya untuk awak punya soalan 1, 2 ataupun 3 markah. Jarang-jarang ada 4 markah. Okay, sekarang ni 5 markah punya soalan tak ada sangat. So paling banyak 3. Kadang-kadang 4. Macam tu 5. I don't think there will be a question that is 5 mark. Okay, so that is for question number C. Okay, for question C. So make sure you take note. Those are the point lah. So I repeat again. If you want to add more more info into your answer. Okay, so for the first point, all glucose, amino acid, vitamins, and many inorganic materials are reabsorbed from the glomerular filtrate, okay, back into the blood, right? Back into the blood at the proximal tubule. Second point, the reabsorption can occur via passive or active transport. It depends on the molecule. Okay, so and then for active transport, it requires energy, protein channel, and also protein transporter or co-transporter pun boleh juga. Okay, and then for the fourth point, large amount of water is reabsorbed into the blood by osmosis. The fifth point, many macrovilli to increase the surface area for reabsorption in the proximal tubule. Okay, so those are the 5 points for question C. Okay, so for question D, Shazliana.
Question D. Explain the significance of angiotensin 2 in preventing excessive blood loss from the body. Angiotensin 2 will constrict arterioles, which decrease blood flow into capillaries in kidney to raise blood pressure.
Okay, 1 mark. Okay, soalan ni 1 markah je. Okay, so your explanation gains you 1 mark. Okay, so and then you could also add another point in your answer. This process also stimulate the release of aldosterone. Okay, aldosterone by adrenal gland. Okay, so this will make the distal tubule and also collecting duct to reabsorb more water and sodium chloride. This is to increase blood volume and blood pressure. Okay, so excessive blood loss can cause blood pressure to drop, blood volume to drop as well. So to increase back the blood pressure and the blood volume, it involves the RAS okay, system, renin-angiotensin aldosterone system. Okay, so you look back, please refer back into your notes to understand the mechanism of renin-angiotensin aldosterone system ni. Okay, the purpose is to increase back blood pressure and blood volume back to the normal set point. Okay. Okay, so question number 3, Natasha.
Question number 3. Pancreas is the organ that involved in the control of blood glucose level. Name the cells in the pancreas that secrete hormones. Alpha A cells and beta B cells.
Alpha and beta B cells. In a group of cells, we call it as what? Group of cells. Dia mula dengan I.
Insulin.
Insulin is the hormone. Apa dia?
Saya tak ingat.
Mula pada I. IS. Apa saya tulis kat situ? I've written the answer is in the islets of Langerhans. Okay, so the alpha and the beta cells, okay, is located in the islets of Langerhans in the kidney. Okay, so question number 2, please. Natasha.
Name the hormone secreted by cells in A1.
Okay, kalau alpha apa?
Glucagon.
Glucagon.
Insulin.
Insulin by the beta cell, kan? Thank you. Okay, so glucagon will be secreted when blood glucose level increase or decrease. it is secreted when blood glucose level decrease. Okay, glucagon secreted when blood glucose level decrease. So the effects of secreting glucagon is to increase back the blood glucose level to the normal set point by, for example, it instructs the cell of the liver to break down glycogen into glucose. Okay, so that is one of the mechanism posed by or instructed by the hormone glucagon. So kalau insulin, it is secreted when blood glucose level increase, such as for example after you eat rice or you eat a piece of bread or cake or whatever, kan, that is carbohydrate. So in your blood there will be a high concentration of glucose in the blood. So by secreting insulin, the excess glucose in the blood will be by secreting the insulin, so the insulin will instruct tissue, okay, muscle cell to take up the glucose, so that the cell of the muscle cell can use for cellular respiration to generate energy or heat, or the excess glucose, the insulin will instruct the liver to store the excess glucose as glycogen, okay, or if there's more excessive amount of glucose in the blood, dah tak cukup dah nak simpan kat liver, so the excess glucose will be converted into amino acid or fat, and the fat will be stored in the adipose tissue. So that's why when you eat too much, you will get fat, kan? Walaupun yang makan tu adalah karbohidrat, nasi, kek, roti, but if you eat too much of the carbohydrate, the excess glucose or the excess carbohydrate will be converted into fat and stored in the adipose tissue. Okay, so basically hormone dia bukan bertindak sebagai enzim, ya. Dia bukan enzim yang breakdown glycogen into glucose. Dia bukan enzim yang akan convert glucose into glycogen. No, dia adalah cell messenger. Okay, cell messenger. It instruct the cell of the liver, it instruct the cell of the muscle cell to do all those reaction. Okay, so reaction yang akan membangkitkan tidak balas dalam sel adalah the enzyme. These are hormone which instruct cell to do all those reaction. Okay, so that one we are going to learn in the next chapter after reproductive system. Okay. Okay, so I hope you know how to explain on the mechanism carried out by these two hormones, okay, in regulating blood glucose level. Okay, so for question B, can you do both? For satu je lah, okay. Explain how these animals use behavioral responses to control body temperature. So for dragonfly, can tadi Natasha, so Najwa.
Yes, madam.
Okay.
Dragonfly have oblique posture to minimize the amount of body surface exposed to the sun.
Okay, betul. Okay, so they have oblique, okay, structure or posture, okay, to reduce the amount of body surface area exposed to the sun. Okay, so less heat will be reabsorbed by the dragonfly when it is exposed to sun radiation. Okay, so for B, for honeybee is for Nabila, please.
For honeybee, in hot weather, they cool hive by transporting water. And in cold weather, they increase heat by huddle together.
Huddle together. Okay. Okay, so saya nak tanya, if the temperature is hot, okay, you said that the bees will bring water to the hives. Setakat situ ke dia akan berhenti brings water? How does the colony of bees cool down the temperature in the hives? Bawa air, lepas tu apa yang dia akan buat? they will fans, okay, fanning their wings, kan, fanning their wings to cause the water to evaporate, okay, to evaporate and bring along the heat from the hives, okay, to cool down the hives, okay, to cool down the colony of bees in the hives lah, that is. Okay, so for cold water, they will huddle together, dia rapat-rapat antara satu sama lain. So this is to reduce heat loss from the bee lah. So kalau biasalah kan, kalau if you are feeling cold, you hug together, for example, you hug together. So this is to reduce heat loss from the body. Okay, they huddle together, they kumpul-kumpul lah kan, dekat-dekat antara satu sama lain to reduce heat loss. Okay. So the next one, C, Janatul.
For C, suggest how the structure of the proximal convoluted tubule is adapted to absorb 80% of the kidney filtrate back into the blood. It has a microvilli cell lining to increase the surface area for material absorption from the filtrate.
Okay.
The second point is it has a large number of mitochondria within this tubule cell for active transport.
Okay. So if you look at the question here, okay, suggest how the structure of proximal tubule is adapted to absorb 80% of the kidney filtrate into the blood. 80% of the filtrate will contain obviously water. Okay, so in order to absorb more water, it is not through active transport, kan? It is through the presence of more aquaporins. Okay, so bolehlah tadi soalan ni satu markah je kan. So satu markah yang you mentioning the presence of macrovilli to increase surface area tu boleh dapat markah. Okay, so another point that you could add into your answer is that the proximal tubule is actually, as I mentioned before, it is the longest part of the nephrons. Okay, it is the longest part of the nephron. 1 point. So by having the longest part of the nephron, it causes the presence of high folded surface area. Okay, high surface area exposed for reabsorption to occur, and there will be abundance of aquaporin to transport water. Okay, aquaporin to transport water through osmosis lah. Okay, so those are the points that you could include in your answer. Okay, so thank you tadi Janatul. For question number 4, Alice. Alice, betul kan sebut nama awak? Okay.
The importance of homeostasis in living organisms. First, maintain optimal conditions for enzyme reaction throughout the body and to adjust its metabolic rate according to its requirement.
Okay. First point tadi saya tak berapa nak dengar sebab putus sikit. Second point dah betul.
Maintain optimal condition for enzyme action throughout the body. And the second one is to adjust its metabolic rate according to its requirement.
Okay, metabolic rate dengan enzim tu macam lebih kurang sama point dia. Sebab in order for metabolism to occur, it requires enzyme. Lebih kurang lah. Kan? So it depends on the situation there. Okay. So maybe I could give you 1 mark sebab metabolic rate dengan enzyme is similar. Okay. So another point that you could that you could include in your answer is that homeostasis, kan, the importance of homeostasis, it allows organism to become less dependent on the external environment. Okay, so therefore the organism can live in wider range of habitat. Macam endotherm, kan, endotherm, like for example human, you can find human living in many different environmental condition, in cold weather, in areas that have heavy snow, in areas that is hot, okay, in tropical region, because we can adapt our body mechanism, and it is and our body is not dependent on the external environment. Okay, so, not too much. So organism can live in wider range of habitat for the second point. For the third point is your answer tadi. organism can adjust its metabolic rate according to its requirement. And the last one, maintain constant internal environment although external environment is changing. Kan? So kalau cuaca sejuk, how does your body adapt to warm up the body back to the normal body temperature? If the weather is too hot, how does your body adapt in to make sure that that the body temperature is maintained at 37, kan? Kalau cuaca panas, takkanlah dah nak bertukar sampai 45 degree Celsius, for example, kan? So there will be mechanisms such as sweating tu tadi. Okay, if too hot, you will shiver, for example. So those are different mechanism that your body will carry out that allows you to adapt to live in more wider range of habitat. Okay. So okay, so thank you tadi siapa? Alice. So the next one, Alia, B.
Okay, B. Ultra-filtration in the kidney results in the production of glomerular filtrate. B1. Describe how glomerular filtrate is produced in the body. The first point is blood flows through the glomerular capillaries under high pressure, forcing more than 10% of plasma out of the capillaries and into Bowman's capsule. Then, glomerular capillaries permeable to water and small dissolved molecule. Last point is the blood filtrate through porous capillaries walls and filtration slits.
Okay, so dapatlah all the three marks tadi. Okay, so all the three marks yang you mention tadi lah. So ada. Okay, so if I were to read my answer, okay, if you want to write down, okay. So the question basically asks, describe how glomerular filtrate is produced in the body. Okay, glomerular filtrate. Okay, so this the structure of glomerulus here. You have, what is glomerulus? Glomerulus, it is blood vessels. Okay, blood vessels that receive blood from the afferent arteriole. Afferent arteriole, blood flows into the glomerulus and then out into the efferent. So the diameter of afferent and efferent will be different. Afferent will have a bigger diameter, efferent will have a smaller diameter. Okay, so this difference in diameter causes the formation of high blood pressure in the glomerulus and causes the fluid in the blood to enter into the Bowman capsule because what? Because the structure of the glomerulus tadi yang you mentioned, it is porous, it has pore. Okay, it has pore. So point tu boleh masuklah dalam awak punya point tadi kan. So you have the glomerulus surrounded by the Bowman capsule, and from the Bowman capsule you have the proximal tubule, right? Okay, so a point that you can write in your answer, filtration occurs as high blood pressure. Saya terleft meeting tadi, but you can answer. Okay, filtration occurs as high blood pressure or hydrostatic pressure flows in the glomerulus. Okay, for the first point. Second point tadi, wider diameter of afferent arteriole compared to efferent arteriole. Okay, for the second point. For the third point, okay, from fluid from the blood in the glomerulus will enter into the lumen of Bowman capsule. Okay, so small molecules will move out of the blood and enters into the Bowman capsule to form the glomerular filtrate. Small molecules such as tadi apa? The nutrients, the amino acid, the glucose, all that substance will also enters into the glomerular filtrate in the Bowman capsule. Okay, glomerular filtrate adalah filtrate dalam Bowman capsule, right? Okay, so the presence of filtration slit or porous capillary wall of the glomerulus causes the formation of the glomerular filtrate. Okay, and also kalau kat Bowman capsule dia ada juga podocytes. Okay, podocytes that are present at the Bowman capsule. Okay, podocyte, which is filtration slits. Okay, in the Bowman capsule, right? So those are the points that you could include in your answer. So for question number 2, if saya boleh connect balik masuk. Okay, so for question number 2, Muhammad.
Yes, madam.
Okay, number 2, please.
Blood flow through the glomerular capillaries under the high pressure, causing more than.
Can you read the question? Read the question first, please.
Describe ultra-filtration in the kidney result in the production of glomerular filtrate.
Itulah kita baru discuss tadi.
State the effect of the antidiuretic hormone ADH on nephron in the kidneys.
Okay.
Nephrons become more permeable towards water collecting. Thank you, madam.
Okay, become permeable due to what? The increasing number of
Water collecting.
aquaporins. So in order to increase reabsorption of water, there will be addition of more aquaporin in the cells of the collecting ducts and also in the distal tubule of the nephrons. Okay, so that is the function of the hormone ADH, antidiuretic hormone, which is secreted by the posterior pituitary. Posterior pituitary is in the brain area. So the hormone will travel along your blood until it reaches the target organ, which is the kidney. And in the kidney, it causes the addition of more aquaporin in the cells of distal tubule and also collecting ducts. Okay, so when more aquaporin is added to the cell of collecting duct and also distal tubule, there will be more reabsorption of water. Okay, so that is the effect of ADH hormone in the kidney to cause more reabsorption of water through the addition of more aquaporin in the collecting ducts and also distal tubule. Okay, so soalan nombor 5 ni. Boleh tak kita buat soalan nombor 5 ni sikit? Saya buat nombor 1. Okay, question 5, figure 4 represents renal corpuscle of a mammalian kidney. Okay, basically, so this is the structure of renal corpuscle. Okay, renal corpuscle is the combination of glomerulus and Bowman capsule that is involved in the process of ultrafiltration. Okay, ultrafiltration in the formation of glomerular filtrate in the Bowman capsule. So, in the question, identify the structure S. S is actually afferent arteriole. Okay, afferent arteriole, kalau darah yang keluar is through the efferent arteriole. So, T is obviously Bowman capsule. Okay, or if you write, lumen of Bowman capsule is also accepted. Okay, for question number 2, the process that occurs at the renal corpuscle, okay, at the corpuscle is ultrafiltration. Okay, explain how the structure of the corpuscle contributes to ultrafiltration. So the word here that you want to highlight is the structure. Okay, structure yang involved dalam menyebabkan boleh terhasilnya glomerular filtrate tu. Okay, so here you have to describe the structure of glomerulus and also the structure of Bowman capsule that will contribute to the process of ultrafiltration happens. Okay. So number 1, your first point here, you could write renal corpuscle is the combination of both glomerulus and also Bowman capsule. One of the point that will be accepted. Okay. Second point is that if you mention there will be high blood pressure or high hydrostatic pressure from the blood in the glomerulus, okay, and into the lumen of Bowman capsule. High blood pressure tadi, second point, okay, high blood pressure in the glomerulus. Okay, so for the third point, the diameter, okay, the diameter of the afferent arteriole. Okay, so the afferent arteriole, the diameter is wider compared to the efferent arteriole. For the third point, if you want to include in your answer, soalan ni dalam saya punya skema is actually 3 marks. Okay, dalam awak punya tu 2 markah. Dia sebenarnya 3 markah Saya rasa dia ada error kat sini. It is 3 marks. Okay, sebab dia disuruh awak explain. So selalunya for you to explain process, the mark will be bigger. Okay, 3 marks, something like that. Okay. So point yang ketiga tadi lah, afferent arteriole is wider than efferent. And then yang point seterusnya keempat, for additional point is that the lining of the glomerulus is thin because it is a blood vessels, so it is thin and porous. Okay, thin and porous. Okay, thin and porous ataupun there will be gaps between the endothelial cells. Okay, so next you explaining the structure of Bowman capsule. So the inner lining of Bowman capsule is also thin and also porous. Okay, and then for the last point is that the pores allow small molecules such as salt, glucose, amino acid, vitamin, nitrogenous waste, and other small molecules to enter into the filtrate, but there will be no red blood cells or protein that enters into the filtrate. Sebab apa? Structure red blood cells and protein will be bigger. So dia tak boleh nak muat through the pores of the glomerulus or through the pores of the Bowman capsule. Okay. So those are the point that you could include in your answer. Okay, so for the next question, saya buat semualah. Okay. So dia cepat sikit. For question B, figure 5 shows how sodium ion travel in blood plasma is regulated by the kidney. So if you look at this diagram, you can see the word angiotensinogen, angiotensin 1, angiotensin 2. So this you have to understand on RAS. Okay, RAS. Renin-angiotensin aldosterone system. Okay. So for question number 1, name the enzyme X. Where is enzyme X here? Okay. And structure M that releases it. Okay. Structure M is juxtaglomerular apparatus. JGA. JGA. Juxta. JUXTA. Saya je lah. Apparatus JGA. So M is JGA. So the JGA will secrete the enzyme X, which is renin. Okay, renin. So 2 marks lah. Okay. So number 2, state the effects of hormone Y. Mana hormone Y? At the end here. Okay. State the effects of hormone Y on the region Z of a nephron. Z is it can be distal tubule ataupun collecting ducts. Okay. Okay, so state the hormone Y. What is hormone Y? Aldosterone kan? State the effects of hormone Y. What is aldosterone? So tadi kita tengok dah soalan yang before tadi. So the hormone makes the distal tubule or the collecting ducts to reabsorb more water and sodium ion. Okay, this is to increase blood pressure to the normal set point. Okay, so that is the answer for question number 2. Okay, making the distal tubule or collecting duct to increase reabsorption of water and sodium ion to increase blood pressure. Okay, so that is the answer for the last answer in this discussion. So I hope that you understand what has been discussed. Okay, so do you have any more questions?